Hello, everybody. It is a sunny day here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm Keon Rose. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, and we've got a lot to talk about. We've got the College Football Playoff Committee. They're going to release their rankings tonight to give me something to talk about on a Wednesday, because there's nothing worse in sports than a Wednesday. Nothing happens on Wednesdays. And I feel like that's why they put it on Tuesday. Like, one, you don't have to compete with Monday Night Football, and then two, there's something to talk about Wednesday. Like, we just made up a thing to talk about Wednesday, and I'm totally cool with that. Also, I appreciate the transparency of the committee and this process, and it's going to be interesting to see where people fall. Like, how far back does Ohio State fall after losing to Michigan State in a game where just a battle to be the most conservative and Michigan State won? Or maybe they lost the battle to be the most conservative and won the game, because that's what that game was. It was dreadful. It was bad. It was a bad game. And you've got a lot of shaking up there. Oklahoma State falling to TCU, or rather to Baylor. Here's the thing. I'm looking at the backup quarterbacks for TCU and Baylor, and in a lot of ways, they do things for these offenses that the guys before them couldn't necessarily do. And I'm focusing more on TCU because I don't remember the name of the quarterback that has replaced Trayvon Boykin. But let me tell you something. That guy throws the prettiest deep pass I've ever seen. I mean, the thing is very arching and rainbow-like. It's a perfect spiral. It takes its time. It falls directly into the receiver's hands. Like, he could, from 50 yards out, I feel like he could throw a pass into a bucket. That is just accuracy. It was nice touch on it. It's just a thing of beauty, that guy's pass. And I didn't expect TCU to have a shot, really, to try and regather and come back into this college football playoff. But with Ohio State going down, they really do. And I'm going to talk to Bill about Ohio State on Thursday. We have Thursdays with Bill. Sporting News national college football writer Bill Bender comes and joins us on the show and enlightens us about what's happening in the world of college football. And he's from Ohio. So I'm going to be interested in hearing his Ohio State take. You can find us here on Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Tune in, the TuneIn Radio app. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio. Give us a follow, press play. You can find that app in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. And you can have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. But before we jump into anything else, I want to talk about the Iron Bowl coming up, because this one is one that rivalry games change everything. That Alabama is great and Auburn is not as great. And the issue here, of course, is that Alabama is expected to win out, as they should be. They're one of the most dominant teams in the nation, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. I don't think there's anybody with more dominance than what they have. They are so big. They overpowered and outmuscled very large opponents. We remember in week 1 when they made Wisconsin look like children. That is a very big team there that they just pushed around. And then LSU, one of the best rushing teams in the nation, that too is a large team that just got pushed around by Alabama. And it doesn't look like anybody else that Alabama plays is going to be a match for them. Alabama lost to Ole Miss, if you recall, and they can't have another loss. But weird things happen in rivalry games. This is the Iron Bowl. It's the 80th time that this is happening. Okay, we've got 80 meetings of the Iron Bowl, and anything can go in these games. And when it comes to Alabama, like, you do expect them to push Auburn around a lot. But Auburn has some things going for them. Now, it backfires a lot, right? Like, you remember the Jacksonville State game, just, let's play an FCS school. And this isn't the only struggle that the SEC has had against FCS schools for some reason. It just we're going to overtime against FCS schools. Yesterday we talked about Florida and Florida Atlantic overtime game. Georgia and Georgia Southern overtime game. And then, of course, South Carolina losing to Citadel. The SEC against FCS opponents this year, not great. Not great. So you really can't even hold that against Auburn because they're not the only one. They've been one of four schools in the struggle. Okay, and it's been an absolute struggle. But I haven't seen anybody look that bad. Like this whole conference against FCS opponents, it's been awful. So you can't even hold it against them. Now, Alabama also played an FCS school on Saturday, and they handled business, which is funny because Nick Saban was the one that was saying, that this is not something that's written in stone. It's like, no, maybe not for you, but for the rest of us watching, looking at this, there's no way we're going to look at that and go, Charleston Southern is going to beat Alabama. And they ended up scoring just 6 points. Okay. Alabama got the clear upper hand against Auburn here, but Auburn's got some things that they can use to beat Alabama. Alabama does really well against schools that look like them. So they play Wisconsin. What does Wisconsin like to do? Run the ball. Put their heads down, run the ball, use their line to push your line around. And what did Alabama do to them? Destroyed them. What does LSU like to do? Run the ball, quarterback under center, turn it around and hand it to Fournette. What did Alabama do to them? Destroyed them, pushed them around, dismantled them. Alabama does really, really well against teams that look like them. That look like and play like them. Alabama plays Georgia. What does Georgia like to do? Run the ball, put their head down, turn around, give it to Chubb. Got beaten 38-10. Played Arkansas. What does Arkansas like to do? Run the ball, 27-14. The team that beat Alabama, Ole Miss, what did Ole Miss do? Ole Miss, 5 wide receivers. Spread them out, baby. That's how you beat Alabama. And Gus Malzahn and Auburn, that's what they like to do. They like to spread them out. And that gives Auburn, quite frankly, a puncher's chance. Like, you would think that the school that's more willing to push Alabama around and try and grind it out with them has got a better chance. But actually, just looking at the games that they've played so far, the teams that Alabama has beaten the worst has been the teams that tried to push Alabama, that tried to outmuscle Alabama. What you want to do, get those wide receivers out and make the Crimson Tide play in space. They're not as good at defending it. Now, they're still pretty good at defending it. They're a very good team, and they did dismantle Texas A&M. A&M loves to spread you out. Okay, Tennessee can spread you out a little bit, but they didn't in the game that they played against Alabama, and they didn't lose by very much. But when it comes to what most schools want to do against Alabama, they almost look worse when you force them to guard multiple wide receivers. A spread attack is actually better against Alabama than a power rushing attack. And my guess for that is probably Alabama, your defense practices against the power rushing attack, your own power rushing attack. So when you see somebody else's and they're not as big and they're not as strong and they're not as fast as you, it's easier. It's easier. And LSU is the one that's notable to me just because of Leonard Fournette and how dominant he was. Alabama did not send extra people to stop Leonard Fournette. They did not send extra rushers. They did not stack the box. What they did was they just sent the number 6 or 7. No extra rushers. They rarely blitzed, and they still held Leonard Fournette in check. That means that they were winning their one-on-one matchups and just out-muscling LSU. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. And we're breaking down the Iron Bowl. I think that Auburn has got a puncher's chance of winning this game here. And if they do, is that your nightmare scenario for the SEC? Because now you've got a 2-loss Bama heading into the SEC championship game where they will play Florida. And the thing to note about Florida is, A, they look very beatable, and I don't see why Alabama can't beat them. And B, Florida might trip up somewhere between now and then, too. The Gators look dreadful against everyone. Like, they haven't, since they've lost Greer, they haven't looked good against schools that they ought not to just be beating, but destroying. Florida Atlantic on Saturday, overtime game, won 20-14. Okay, they beat South Carolina 24-14, but trust me, it wasn't as that game was not as lopsided there as it appears. So you're looking at the game, Florida is consistently scoring, but I mean, they gave up the 14 to South Carolina in the fourth. It just, then of course the 9-7 game against Vanderbilt, it's just not been a pretty look for Florida for a while. The loss that they took to LSU starts to look worse and worse all the time because LSU isn't winning any games either. They've been in a funk since they lost to Alabama. So, I mean, it's just been, this isn't a Florida team that I feel like you can trust. Something looks wrong with them. Something looks off about this Florida team, that they had a bit of a swagger coming into the beginning of the season. They've lost all that. That victory over Vanderbilt, that 9-7 win that feels like a loss, that something's wrong with that. And so Auburn has got an opportunity here to just ruin everything for everybody in the SEC. Like, just absolutely, the nightmare scenario is Auburn wins the Iron Bowl. So, of course, because I like chaos, and chaos is nice to talk about on the radio, the wreckage and the carnage of college football and trying to get 4 teams to fit into this playoff. I'm a huge fan of wreckage and carnage. I root for nightmare scenarios, especially ones in which my team is not involved. And the SEC, I'm rooting for your nightmare scenario. Like, I don't know if that keeps the SEC out of the playoff, but you can't have a two-loss team in jumping over 1-loss teams, right? Like, you can't have, say anybody in the Big 12 makes it out with 1 loss. A 2-loss Alabama and a 2-loss Florida can't be ranked higher than a 1-loss Big 12 team, even though the Big 12 doesn't play any defense. Right? And, of course, you'd still have to keep Notre Dame in there. Iowa's still undefeated, even though the Big 10, those schedules are weak. You just can't put a 2-loss team over a no-loss team or a 1-loss team, right? Like, that makes sense. So that's where we're at with the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl could ruin everything for everybody, and so has more weight than I think people are giving it credit for. This game, this 80th meeting between Auburn and Alabama, has so much more weight than people are giving it credit for, because it could be the nightmare scenario for everybody. Could just ruin the entire college football playoff experience for everyone. And it's going to give the committee some difficult choices to make. That's going to be televised on ESPN tonight. I don't remember what time, because I usually just watch them on YouTube later, the committee's justifications for whatever ridiculous thing it is that they're doing this week. And then we talk about it on Wednesday with all the audio involved. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. And I'd like to take this time to point out that we here on Hot News Talk Radio now have The Herd with Colin Cowherd every day from 12 to 1, the show right before mine. That's him. And then you can catch the show in its entirety from 6 to 9. That's The Herd with Colin Cowherd right here on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And I don't care what they say, use the TuneIn Radio app to follow the show. All of the shows, not just his show, my show. We've got Hannity, we've got Russell, and we've got David Tulis in the morning. So nothing has changed, and yet everything has changed. Just giving you a heads up there. This is also brought to you by Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. There is an in-store sale at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, up to 50, 60, and 70% off on designer jewelry and gifts. And if you need to sell anything for just a little bit of extra Christmas money, some cash to buy things for the nephews, the nieces, the sons, the daughters, then you can bring your diamonds, your gold, your extra jewelry, and Rick Davis will appraise them himself and give you the cash straight up. That's Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Cash, cash, cash. Get some today. That's Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. You're listening to AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices at One Stop Package in the Sunrise Market Center, Sunny Daisy. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new One Stop Package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new One Stop Package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial, welcome.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
President Obama makes Jimmy Carter look like Napoleon Bonaparte. We have a president that leads from behind, and when America doesn't lead, bad things happen.
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week is former Congressman from Ohio, Dennis Kucinich, who says a Department of Defense is not enough. The United States needs a Department of Peace, which is committed to avoiding wars. Is Kucinich on to something? Find out this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Warming up out there through the afternoon with some filtered sunshine, highs settling into the mid and upper 50s. Tonight, fair, but not as cold, lows mid-30s. For Wednesday, a nice day, some sunshine. The warm-up continues, highs of around 60. Dry and pleasant Thanksgiving Day, lower to middle 60s. Come to Trenton for the kickoff of Day Discount Day, Saturday, December 5th, and get gas for only 99 cents a gallon. Register to win cash prizes, a grocery shopping spree, free gas, and more. Day Discount Day starting December 5th. And I'm Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Looking at the Iron Bowl matchup on paper, it's pretty fascinating. I think one of my favorite things about this matchup is the one stat that I would not have imagined Auburn leading in is rushing yards per game. The Auburn is out rushing Alabama by like 2 yards a game. But still, Auburn Tigers are 6-5, trying to end the season at 7-5. In the case of Alabama, Alabama's 10-1. Their only loss being to Ole Miss, a loss that, I mean, the moment that it happened, you were like, okay, Ole Miss is pretty solid. This isn't a bad loss. And then Ole Miss continues to just tank it. I mean, they just look terrible. And we were talking about Les Miles yesterday because he's a good coach. I want to know why it is that a school that was ranked number 2 in the nation, suddenly they're ranked 15th. They're not a bad school by any stretch of the imagination. Les Miles is a very good coach. I think he's underrated. He's undervalued. He's underappreciated, at least in LSU, because I don't understand why the drive to push him out of town is. But here's the thing. Quarterback play in the modern game of college football has become so increasingly important. And we've seen coaches get run out before for not finding good quarterbacks, especially in college football. Like in the NFL, you've got to find this guy. You've got to draft this guy. If the draft doesn't allow you the opportunity to get a quarterback, then guess what? You're screwed. You don't get Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck all the time. Those guys don't show up all the time. And if you don't get the opportunity to draft them, then that's almost not on you. Like, no one would really blame you for not being able to draft a great quarterback. And that's the reason why you see Bill O'Brien in Houston getting a little bit of leeway, because he walked into a situation where the quarterbacks were TJ Yates and Ryan Mallett and Brian Hoyer. Like, that's terrible. That's a terrible situation to walk into. Just straight up walked right into sadness. Chose not to re-sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, but to be fair, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been perennially losing football games everywhere he's gone. Like, that's just what he has been doing in his career. He's played for some bad teams, yes, but he hasn't been a winner. So I can understand not wanting to re-sign him, giving Brian Hoyer the shot, but like, these are not great quarterback options. And he's going to have to wait for the draft to come back around, and hopefully there's another good guy in there, maybe. You hope. In college, it's different because you can recruit quarterbacks. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get at least one decent one in the last 5-6 years. And one reason being given for the termination or the possible termination of Les Miles is the quarterback play. The quarterback play since 2011, 2010 hasn't been very good. And either you're not recruiting good enough quarterbacks or you're not developing them very well. But regardless of whatever the case is, that's a reason to be terminated. I don't think you should. Like, I feel like that's a problem you can easily remedy. Let's get a quarterback coach. Let's get someone who's really dedicated to this and try and develop some great quarterback play. Okay, instead of trying to buy out Les Miles, because you were number 2 in the nation at one point. Okay, and yes, everyone's going to harp on the ever since they lost to Alabama back, in that national title game, LSU has been, they've taken a concerning trajectory, shall we say. Okay, and since then, LSU has been 19-12 in the SEC. It's been rough. It's been a rough time. There are just some schools that are different. The job is just a different job than if you take the job at Clemson, you take the job at I don't know, what's a good school? You take the job at Texas A&M, it's not the same as taking the job at Texas. If you take the job at Florida Atlantic, it's not the same as taking the job at Florida. Some places want you to win, and they want you to win now. Tennessee has not been that kind of job, even though Tennessee has those kinds of fans. If Tennessee were to start winning again, Tennessee would be one of those jobs again, where you just show up and you don't have very long if you're not winning. Tennessee's got those kinds of fans, though. We've got that kind of pressure that's just heaped on top of everybody. If you are not winning, it's going to be a rough time for you. That coaching job, not all coaching jobs are created equally. That coaching job is more difficult. LSU is one of those jobs. You need to come out and win. And if you have a history of disappointing play, a recent history, you don't even have to be bad for very long, which LSU hasn't been, okay? 2011, you were in a national title game. Earlier this year, you were number 2 in the nation. You were number 2 in the nation 3 weeks ago. Talking about buying out your head coach now. That's kind of a problem. Stability, in my opinion, is a very big reason why schools don't win. If you're constantly changing in and changing out head coaches, you never let them get them a chance to develop their system, recruit their guys, then there's no way of knowing what can happen. It's not like LSU has gone from the heights of college football to being a below 500 team. LSU feels like a school that's a few pieces away, and a quarterback especially, and could possibly maybe use some big-time receivers to get some plays open up downfield. But look, it's not a reason to jettison your head coach, especially when that head coach is a guy as highly respected as Les Miles has been. And I know I'm not wrong on this. When you replace a head coach, you always have to be aware of this. Can the next guy do better than him? You cannot just dump a coach. If the next guy can't do better, what was the point? Okay, and I understand that in a lot of situations, okay, a coach will eventually lose the locker room. Eventually, their culture is not going to be relevant to the kids that they're coaching and all of those things. Like, there's a whole lot of situations that factor into it. I'm not just saying hang on to whatever coach you've got. I'm saying you need to be very certain of who the next guy is going to be, and if that next guy is going to be a drastic improvement over the guy you've got. And I don't know how you improve on Les Miles. There are ways you could get more offensively creative if somehow you could lure Chip Kelly out of the NFL. I don't know why he would go to LSU, though. I don't know that that's a great fit. Like, maybe Southern California would be a better fit for Chip. But either way, if you can work with Les Miles, like, okay, he's not recruiting quarterbacks very well. What does it take to recruit quarterbacks? Because, like, it's not like the SEC has been known for recruiting the highest level of quarterbacks, right? Like, we don't have a lot. SEC produces a lot of talent, right? Like, a lot of talent. The best schools in this league aren't exactly producing the greatest of quarterbacks. Not recently. Not recently. Okay, like the best quarterbacks are still coming out of the Pac-12, still coming out of the Big 12, schools that throw the ball around a lot. Okay, you've got Jameis coming out of the ACC, Mariota, Pac-12, Luck, Pac-12. It's just how it is. This conference is not producing great quarterbacks. It's not just Les Miles. So does that factor into your decision at all to let him go? This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, talking about Les Miles being on the chopping block. It's one of the most perplexing things of this college football season to me. I'd love to get Bill's take on it because I'm confused. Since when does getting your school to as high as number 2 in the nation mean that it's time to walk away from this coach? And yes, I get it. Now they're now 6-5. They've had a slew of games that just you look at it and you're going, This isn't just bad. This is historically bad. And I don't know how you turn around LSU from here. Like, if Les Miles has another subpar season, then what? And at the same time, who do you replace him with? That, to me, that's the big question. Okay, and I like to use the Warriors example in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors were a good team. They were a good team. Their problem was they were not able to get over the hump in the playoffs, made a gutsy move, fired their head coach, Mark Jackson, because, and for one of the reasons was he had a very limited offense. The offense was very stale, oftentimes very predictable, and they were getting to the playoffs every year, but they weren't able to get over the hump. They fired Mark Jackson, they replaced him with Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr is able to take the Warriors to that next level. They win the NBA Finals this year, and now they've got an opportunity to tie an NBA record. They've started off with 16 wins and no losses if they win tonight against the Lakers. So that's an opportunity for them. But that all started with letting go of their coach, who was a good coach, to try and get a better coach. Is this the same thing with LSU? Is this a similar situation? That Les Miles is a good coach, and maybe his style, maybe his flair, maybe the culture that he's bringing to the school has run its course, and it's time to replace him with a different coach. My thing is he's got to be better. And I don't know if you can find better. You know what I mean? I don't know if you can find a better coach than that just right off the bat, because again, this was not a thought that was on everybody's mind 3 weeks ago when LSU legitimately had an opportunity to win out and try and be in the college football playoff. In the eyes of a few, they were every bit as good as Alabama. And once Alabama beat them, that obviously wasn't the case, but they were still very much in it, and they've just fallen off. They've just fallen off, and I don't know if the guys have given up on Les. I have no idea. There's nothing. There's no indication there that says this team should be where they're at statistically. And they're going to be playing Texas A&M this week, and they better win. And they better win fairly convincingly, because the boosters are talking about putting up their own money to buy out Les Miles' contract. That reported by ESPN yesterday. Once people are like, you know what? I don't care how much it costs to get this guy out of here. Once they're willing to pay to make you go away, it's serious. It's serious. Like, whether or not he deserves it, which I certainly think he doesn't, whether or not he deserves it, once people are putting up money to make you go away, it's serious. Whatever the case may be. Okay? Money is something that nobody likes to let go of. When you start paying people to not do a job, they want you gone. They want you gone. If I was showing up to Hot News Talk Radio and they wanted me out of here so badly, they started paying me not to show up, I'm not good at this. Don't get me wrong. I'd collect the paycheck. I would take the money. My pride would be wounded, but I would still take the money. But that would also mean that I'm really not good at this right now, or I'm not what the station wants. When people start paying you not to show up, it's time to really sit down and consider, is this the best fit for me right now? Is it the best fit for me right now? People are paying me not to show up. Like the whole situation with Charlie Weiss, and this is not that situation, but Charlie Weiss at Notre Dame, at Kansas, to this day, they're paying him not to coach there. He was so bad, they fired him before his contract was up. He had some long contracts with those schools. They're still paying Charlie Weiss not to coach there at two schools. Kansas is paying Charlie Weiss not to coach there, and Notre Dame is still paying Charlie Weiss not to coach there. That's a long time, man. They're still paying him not to coach there. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We'll be back with some more college football talk, and I will entertain the ideas of the Atlanta Hawks right here. Coming up next on Clutch.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. News Talk 1240.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming lives.
Happy holidays at the Wood. From the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices and one-stop package in the Sunrise Market Center's Sunny Daisy, the brand new one-stop package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new one-stop package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new one-stop package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine. I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Soddy Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call, 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook at Wimpy's. I know your mouth is watering just like mine. So let's go to Wimpy's.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Patrick Neal, in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
There is nothing on earth right now hotter than the Golden State Warriors. Nothing. There's no team. There's no person. And I don't care in what context. There are peppers that are not as hot right now as the Golden State Warriors. There is actual fire that is not as hot right now as the Golden State Warriors. There isn't a supermodel on this planet as hot right now as the Golden State Warriors. They are undefeated to start the NBA season. This is one of the better starts to an NBA season ever, just because of all the different storylines. Last season was pretty good too. But this season, because the Warriors are defending their title, and they're defending it so aggressively, like they didn't come back and they didn't take any time off and they didn't relax and mess around. They came back ready to play. And they've got an opportunity to tie an NBA record to start the season 16-0 tonight against the Lakers. And the reason why I say they're the hottest team on the planet, and quite frankly, just maybe the hottest thing on the planet. Like the sun is not hotter than the Golden State Warriors. Not that we can tell in Tennessee right now. It's cold everywhere and always lately. But the sun is not hotter than the Warriors right now. I took a look at the Warriors shot chart, and they're shooting absurdly high everywhere. They're shooting around 40 to 45% from their three-pointers. They're shooting around 40 to 45 to 50% from their mid-range jumpers. Around the basket, they're finishing at around 60%. And I like the little shot chart thing has got, if you're shooting below average, it's got blue in the shot chart, and if you're shooting above average, it's bright orange red. And everywhere the Warriors shoot from is bright orange red. Like they don't miss anymore. Like it's not real. It hardly feels human. Okay? That the Golden State Warriors are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. And to not watch the Warriors right now is to be doing yourself a disservice, because I think the magnitude of this team, and this is not an exaggeration, the magnitude of this team right now is like Michael Jordan's Bulls back in the 90s. They look that dominant. They look that unbeatable. There's times where they don't look guardable. There's times when your team is going to be up 15, up 20 against them, and that lead doesn't look safe. They did it against the Clippers. The Clippers were up by as many as 19 points. Chris Paul started off the game about as well as anybody could. He didn't miss a shot. Like, he literally didn't miss a shot. He went 7 for 7. And you know what happened? The Warriors came back, beat them. They're like, what do you do? What do you do when going up 20 doesn't make your lead safe? Like, you can't even put your bench players out there against the Warriors because they'll light them up. They'll light up your starters. Like, Steph Curry is a cold-blooded assassin. He does not care. You need to be watching these Warriors. I understand that, okay, yes, it's early in the basketball season. 16 wins in a row to start the season is not a joke. That's going to be tying the Bulls record. When the Bulls won 72 games out of 82 in an NBA season. This record's been untouched. And the Warriors might grab it this season. Like, take literally any opportunity you have to watch them play. It's not just the most fun you'll have all NBA season. Like, it makes me mad and upset, and I'm very jealous that Warriors fans get to watch that team play. The Warriors are more entertaining than my own basketball team. I watch the Warriors more than I watch the Wizards. I am a huge Wizards fan. I watch them more than I watch the Wizards. I'm covering the Hawks, and I watch the Warriors more than I watch the Hawks. What they're doing is unprecedented. And here's the thing, because basketball is a game like any other game. What you're able to do in that game is dependent on the rules of that game. And so when the rules change, the way that you play changes too. It's pretty obvious. I know I'm stating the obvious here, but the rules started to change in the early 2000s. And I don't think that the rest of the league has done a very good job of catching up to these rule changes and changing the way that you play to maximize what the rules allow you to do. The rules don't allow you to be as physical as you used to be, which means that you've got a guy like Steph Curry. He's a smaller player. He's got great handles. He's got great skill. He can do what he does because you can't push him around. In the 90s, Steph Curry wouldn't have been able to be Steph Curry because he probably would have been beaten up. You try and do a layup in the lane, like hard fouls in the 90s wouldn't get you ejected out of games. Teams like the Pacers and the Knicks had the no layup rule. If you tried to score a layup in the painted area, you were getting hit. And you knew you were getting hit. Guys would go down the middle knowing they were going to get hit, which means you only took that shot if you knew you could make it. You only took that shot if you knew you could make it. So you can't do that in today's NBA. NBA is more about safety, which means you can't just push guys around like you used to. Steph Curry gets to exist. Klay Thompson gets to exist. And then also, the rules have put a premium on shooting. You shoot threes. You space the floor. You play faster. You can play smaller players, which means you play a quicker game, which means if you've got a lot of big guys, like back in the day, you move slower, you're behind the curve. You're playing with a Cro-Magnon offense. It's out of date. You need to fix it. I can see it with the Washington Wizards right now. They're the team that they're late to the party. They're trying to space everything out, but you've got big guys on that team. The Wizards just move slower. And fortunately, the Atlanta Hawks are one of the teams that are ahead of the curve on this. The Hawks don't have a Steph Curry. They don't have any superstars, really. Jeff Teague, not a superstar. Al Horford, not a superstar. Paul Millsap, not a superstar. Just isn't. Kyle Korver, none of these guys are superstars. They're all very good players, and they're all very talented at their positions. But none of these guys are superstars. Dennis Schroeder, not a superstar, just very good. But what the Hawks are able to do is play with that pace and play with that space. And it's very similar to what the Warriors are doing. And I feel like the Hawks need to really try and trade for maybe not a superstar, but at least the next tier down. Try and add another all-star to this team. Because Teague is all-star caliber. Horford is all-star caliber. I think they need one more. Really all-star level guy to try and boost this team. Because Atlanta is, just from a coaching perspective, just from a tactical perspective, every bit as capable of doing what the Warriors are doing right now. And they play in a weaker conference. So there's no reason. To me, there's no reason why the Atlanta Hawks can't do what the Warriors are doing right now. They're already ahead of the curve. They don't have a lot of big plotting players. They move quickly. They spread the ball. They shoot threes very well. They shoot high percentage shots from all over the place. They just don't have that superstar talent that the Warriors have. The Warriors have Steph. That's a game breaker. The Warriors don't have that game-breaking player. Steph has got the fastest release of any shooter. He's got the best handles of any shooter. That alone makes him the greatest shooter in NBA history. There's no reason why Atlanta shouldn't be capable of doing that also. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose, and I want to shift gears, still talk about basketball. I want to go to college basketball because there's something that I need to tell you. I will be obsessing about it for a while. I'm not going to be the only one, and I want you to be ahead of this train here. We were talking about LSU earlier. We're talking about the football program. Let's jump to the basketball program really quick because I want to talk about a guy named Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is amazing. If you haven't been able to watch Ben Simmons play so far this college basketball season, I highly recommend it. Cut out some time out of your day and watch some college basketball. It's not going to kill you. We've got one more week left in college football. Watch some college basketball. I promise you're not going to die. Watch a little bit of college basketball. It's not going to kill you. Okay, I know this is the South, and sometimes we act like we're allergic to basketball until like early February. Watch a little college basketball. It's not going to kill you. The SEC is going to be really good this year. Ben Simmons down at LSU has brought a lot of hype to that team. And deservedly so, because he looks like Magic Johnson. He's 6'11". He runs like a person who is not almost 7 feet tall. He passes like a guy who's not almost 7 feet tall. Like he's 7 feet tall, basically. And he runs like a deer. Like he's so nimble. I am not that nimble. I'm 5'10". $170. This guy is more light on his feet than I am. He's huge. Ben Simmons is enormous. And he's great. That's the coolest part about it. Ben Simmons is huge, but he's a great passer. He's got incredible court vision. He's so well-rounded, which is unusual for a player his age. To be that well-rounded of a player. He's incredibly talented and skilled. I love the way that offense runs through him. He can post up. He doesn't have to post up. He can pass from the top of the three-point line, top of the key as well. You can run high-low pick and roll with him. I love watching Ben Simmons play. You need to be watching Ben Simmons play. You need to be watching your Atlanta Hawks because they are every bit as capable, I think, as the Warriors are. They're just missing that one piece, and I'd love to see what they're going to do at the trade deadline. And also watch the Warriors. Just watch more basketball. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to tune into The Herd from 6 to 9 with Colin Cowherd later today on AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. News Talk 1240.
Warming up out there through the afternoon with some filtered sunshine, highs settling into the mid and upper 50s tonight.